This reading is taken from John chapter 6, verses 1 to 15. Jesus feeds the 5,000. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of people followed him, because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test them, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself.
Hi there. Matthew read a well-known passage in John chapter 6, wherein Jesus fed over 5,000 people. This is a miracle that has been coming up recently in my life, and I've felt really encouraged by it, and I hope you guys feel really encouraged too. This passage shows how Jesus turned 2 fish and 5 loaves to feed 5,000 people and still have leftovers. This shows how powerful God really is. Firstly, it reminds us of Jesus' love and compassion. We see early on in chapter 6 where it mentions that Jesus was travelling and healing the sick at the same time. This shows Jesus' character, as he was so compassionate about others and by doing amazing things throughout this passage. He travelled, he healed the sick, but still the top of his priority was the crowd that followed. He wanted to look out for the whole crowd and look out for them. Secondly, Jesus uses other people to bless others. By Jesus asking his disciples to find food, they found a boy. And I really like this, as it says in the Bible that they found a boy. So this shows that it doesn't have to be an adult. It doesn't have to be someone high up in power. God can use anybody, and especially in this passage, he uses a boy. This boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish, and Jesus was able to use that to feed over 5,000 people. Jesus used this boy for this miracle, and by Jesus using his disciples and the boy, it reminds us how God uses us to bless others as well. So as a church, when God asks us to bless others, we must have faith in God. We must act upon it as it could impact someone else's life. Thirdly, Jesus is big enough for any expectation. Isn't this amazing, but not surprising? As Jesus is the Son of God, Jesus surpassed our expectations. Jesus provides every need, and he succeeds in this. In this passage, Jesus turns 5 small loaves and 2 fish to feed a crowd well over 5,000 people. This shows us how powerful he is, and that we should be able to rejoice in this. We have such a powerful God that he can do anything. Finally, we can see from this miracle that there is no great obstacle God cannot face. God is always bigger than everything, especially our challenges and obstacles. By Jesus feeding 5,000 is a reminder that there's nothing that we face is too big for God. And that is still true today. As the world is battling with COVID-19, God is still working. Nothing is too big for our God to handle. And especially today, with people who face their own challenges, just know that God is still there. God is working, and God will come through and help you.